Hey there, this is Chad from Zombie Fight Shark. Welcome to our walkthrough and review of the Spitfire Audio BBC Symphony Orchestra Discover Edition. And if you're not familiar with Spitfire, you should be. They make, hands down, some of the best orchestral virtual instruments out there. Their sampling, their quality, the players they use, just kind of across the board. They single-handedly have raised the bar of what good means in the industry. Incredibly, they were giving away at the time, at least at the time of this recording, they gave away BBC Symphony Orchestra Discover for the cost of doing a survey for them. So I did the survey, and then they sent me a link 2 weeks later, and I downloaded and installed it, and then here it is. And I'm kind of blown away that it's free. I think it was absolutely genius because within 5 minutes of playing with this, I wanted to pay. It's on sale for $750 right now and get the full version, but I don't have $750 on hand at the moment. So I'm going to play with this one for a little bit. So we're going to go all the way through this. We're going to listen to all the sounds. We're going to look at all the controls and just see what has this thing got to offer. Because it runs for $50, and even if I'd paid $50, I'd be totally happy because this thing sounds incredible. But first, I'm going to play a short work that I created with this and try to use as many of the sounds as I possibly could. So take a listen to that, and I'll be back in just a second. Okay, so that was a short piece I put together just using strictly this VST. And in the past, Spitfire had used Contact for a lot of their instruments, and then they started developing their own standalone VST, which it's very similar in functionality to Contact, but I can completely understand why they big enough to go out on their own and just start doing their own thing. So there's 3 different versions of the BBC Symphony Orchestra library. There's this Discovery, then there's a core version, and then there's the Pro version. And let's just do a little see this comparison that they have on their site. So Discover, we got 33 instruments. So that's what you just heard, 33 instruments, 47 techniques. There's basically no round robin. So it's one sample. Everything is one sample on this. But in this case, the one sample is so darn good that you can 100% get away with just, I don't know. It just sounds great. I can't, I'm just so stoked that they're, giving it away. Then it doesn't have legatos, it doesn't have solos, and it doesn't have the techniques editor, which is sad, but these are the things you live with. And then core, you can see it's got up to 8 round robin, same as the Pro. So the signals, that's microphones, How many microphones do you have to play with? So Pro 20, and that is professional level. That is the point where if you're playing with that, it's probably because you're scoring something. Because most of the time, most of us aren't going to need 20 different mics to choose from. Dynamic layers up to 3, so legatos, solos, leaders, techniques, etc. And so if you take a look at the size, 200 megabytes for Discover, 23 gigabytes for Core, over 10 times the size, and then the Pro version is 600 gigabytes, which is that's a lot. There's a lot of samples, and there's a reason for it. 435 different techniques, 56 instruments. That's a lot of samples. So, anyways, like I said, we're looking at Discover. So let's check it out. Let's take a listen. So the interface that you see here, you got 2 different ways to select instruments. You have this drop down, which if you have labs, then this interface will look familiar because it is pretty much identical or almost identical to how you select instruments in labs. And then the other one that is pretty cool is that you can just click on the section. And, if you're a teacher, then this is awesome because you're simultaneously teaching your students, or your students are learning what the setup of the orchestra is just by clicking around and selecting the instruments they want to use. Before I start playing, let's just look at the controls. And as you can see, as I click around, then you've got different down here. You see your techniques are changing as we go from instrument to instrument. And then in the case of percussion, your techniques are actually different instruments within percussion to choose from, and then hits, timpani, untuned percussion, harp, plucks, celesta. Then you got long and staccato or staccatissimo. And then, so, you get a handful of different ones to play with, but, it's enough to do some respectable music. So selecting them, pretty simple, just click. And there does not appear to be a way to automate this. I have not tried to kind of do a workaround through my DAW yet to see if there was a way that I can assign some control factors to it. But in the other versions, it's built into the interface to be able to control this. So that's there may be a way. This is still really new, so I haven't had a chance to play with it that much yet. So you might end up having to just do individual instruments of every instrument, but this is a pretty small library, so you can actually get away with quite a bit. Some other stuff that also will look familiar if you have used labs. You have a reverb control, and down here in the corner, I haven't turned it off, you see information. It's an information panel, so as you hover over stuff, it tells you what it is: reverb, and then dynamics, and then expression. Since you don't have multiple layers, then your expression and dynamics, you don't get the stuff that you get with other libraries. In this, you're really just getting volume when you're playing with those. But we'll mess with that in a second. And then your reverb level there. And I guess this is sort of a placebo button because you can lock the technique for the current settings. Well, there's not really any settings to lock. You just have the technique that you've selected. So again, that's another one that it's kind of a leftover from Core or from the Pro version, where you can lock the technique settings, and there's a lot of stuff to play with in those. Just to round it out, a couple of other things. We got our pitch bend down here. We got our tiny dynamics down here by the keyboard. Then up top, we got our CPU usage. We got our disk usage, memory usage, and then number of voices that are playing. Then you can save your preset if you've changed some things and come back to it later. Then this collapse just removes all that bottom half, so you got just a small version of it, which is nice. MIDI channel, pretty straightforward, just like your 16 MIDI channels. Tuning, standard tuning stuff. Panning, standard panning. Of course, keep in mind you're panning the entire VST when you're playing with that. Volume, standard, you know how that goes. So this is another one where I was like, well, is this going to do anything in the Discover version, or do I have to have the Pro version? So the velocity, this does actually do something. So depending on your dynamic level, if linear velocity means hit soft and it progresses in a straightforward fashion of the harder I hit, the louder it gets. Then shelf velocity, hit soft, it's play soft, but then there's going to be a period in the middle, depending on how hard you hit, where you're going to be pretty much the same dynamic level. And then when you hit like extra hard, then it shoots up to the top. So shelf velocity responds a little strangely from what I'm used to, but depending on you, you may be perfect for you. So you kind of just have to play with it. Exponential negative curve is a lot of soft, and then boom, shoots up to the top. So you can see by the curve that it does not progress in a straight line. It's like soft, 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 soft. All of a sudden, it's loud. And then the exponential positive curve does the opposite. It's like soft, and then boom, you're in the middle or you're loud. So it responds kind of strangely. So all the stuff I've done, I just left it on linear velocity. No need to mess with that. Then with dynamics, I tended to stick with full velocity range, even though, I mean, you got a couple options. So full velocity range from 0 to 127, you get the full range of the instrument. Of course, all of these are one sample, so it doesn't matter a whole lot in this case, but that's what I tend to stick with. Velocity mapped to dynamics, so that means this dynamics here is going to control your velocity, and depending on your controller, that might be the way to go. You might not want to be able to like play harder, play softer, and get a dynamic difference. You may want to control it all through there. I've never gotten real used to that, but some people are real good at it. Then compressed velocity high, compressed velocity low. So as in compressed velocity is in a compressor. So it's kind of like everything's loud with that one. And then compressed velocity low, it compresses it lower. So it's not everything's quiet, but it doesn't quite respond. I guess it responds almost the same as the full velocity range, but again, a lot of this is moot because you only have one sample. So I'm going to leave it on full velocity range for this, and we're going to leave it on linear velocity, just for clear understanding. Then last but not least, settings. Copy settings to all your about sections worth mentioning. We got all our thanks because a lot of people did a lot of stuff in this, and Spitfire just knocked it out of the park. I mean, I'm kind of gushing a little bit because I'm so stoked that they just gave it away, gave it away for the cost of me doing a survey, which I was happy to do because they make great products, and they're good people. I mean, they're giving away labs and just good stuff. So help text, you can turn that on or off. I'm going to leave it on. Then your default size, simple enough. Default scale of the instrument. Show key switches if it has key switches. Then gain units in decibel or percentage. And then make controllers global, disable, host, automation, et cetera, et cetera. You can go through that, play with those, and see what you think. All right, now the fun part. So let's start to get into the actual instruments themselves. So if you have ever played in an orchestra, then you'll be familiar with this setup. This isn't the only orchestral setup, but obviously this is how the BBC is set up, and this is kind of your traditional standard way that it's set up. So let's start with violins 1. Not that it matters much, but I'm playing in Ableton today. And so you can see or hear these long notes have a long attack. So, or relatively speaking, a long attack. You don't have like quick or hard attack and a long note. That's why this is the Discover version. You don't get all the cool stuff. So normally you would hear a timbre change as you're going up and down in the dynamics if there were multiple levels, but it's only one sample, so you're not hearing that timbre change. It's just getting louder or softer. Let's go to spiccato. So yeah, it's still pretty usable. Let's check out the pizzicato. Pretty sweet. And let's go ahead and check out the tremolo, and then we'll go on to violins too, which is not the same. Pretty respectable, I think. All right, so violins 2. We'll just do an A-B here just to compare. So, all right, so that's violins 2. Violins 1. Yeah, not the same. Violins 2. Yeah, not the same samples. There's probably some overlap in there at some point, but obviously at least some of those notes are not the same. Let's see, back to violins 2. And I didn't mention it before, but as I'm hovering over, you see description. Violins 1, the focal point of the orchestra. Although 16 individual players, these violinists blend together seamlessly as a single unit, which just emphasizes, like, this is a teaching tool. This is an excellent teaching tool because it's... I just don't even know what to say about how cool that is, that you don't have to know anything about the orchestra, but in the way they've put this together, just by playing with it, you're going to learn how the orchestra is set up. You're going to learn at least the most standard of some of the techniques. You're going to learn what the function of the different instruments are just by hovering over this stuff. I mean, just bravo, Spitfire, bravo, great stuff. So just let's play with violins 2 a little bit more, and we'll do a little more A-B comparison just to see if we can spot any overlap. All right, we'll go back and forth here on spiccato, and we'll go from violin 2 to violin 1. So just in the interest of time, I'll try not to talk so much. So yeah, definitely different samples. So that's awesome. So let's just keep exploring. We'll do pizzicato and tremolo. Okay, so I'd say we found a few of them that overlapped there, which no surprise. I expected there would be some overlap at some point. So let's check out the tremolo, and then we'll move on to another instrument. Okay, so yeah, there's definitely some differences there. Let's explore violas. So you're gonna hear some of the same things here. Might go a little bit faster, but let's check out these different techniques. And you notice I haven't played with the reverb yet. I'll mess with that just so you can see. It's a little bit weird with the reverb up there. Let's check out tremolo. Cello. Okay, moving on to cellos. Let's check those out. Something to be mindful of there that yeah, it gets a little hot. That signal does with that reverb turned on. So yeah, noted. I would say that's the first one that's bothered me with the repetition, where it's the one sample and it's very noticeable. So let me do it again. I can still live with it, but yeah, that one's the first one that it really jumped out at me. I'm guessing you probably hear that every once in a while. It's like I'm getting like a random, like that random extra note. Not sure where that's coming from. That's a little funky. Yeah, just like something's jumping out at you there. Some kind of weird remnant or something. I don't know. That's strange. Let's check out tremolo. So I do absolutely love the fact that you can hear the hair. You can hear the player sawing on it. It's those little details that, those really do make a huge difference in what the final product sounds like, because even when you're listening to an orchestra, you don't hear those unless you're right up on the player, but they're there, they exist. Let's check out the basses, because I'm all about the bass. And and they were nice enough to give us down to that low C, which is sweet. So that, what I was just playing is a little artificial sounding, and it's because the attack on that long, it's that slow attack, and the attack and the release are not quite there. That would be something I would play with if I had the ability, but again, I don't. There it went again. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that is. So that didn't give you the top range of the bass, but again, I don't know, not to keep repeating myself, but it is what it is, and it's not intended to be end all be all for everything. So let's get into woodwinds. So let's start with the piccolo. It's so piercing, so piercing. I think you get the idea with the piccolo. Let's check out its big sister, the flute. I just love the low end of the flute and how velvety it is. Just one of the more beautiful timbres and ranges of an instrument, I think. That's a pretty respectable response from something that's just a staccatissimo attack. It's not a run per se, but you are still getting something pretty decent out of it. Not too shabby. All right, let's go to oboes. Okay, let's do clarinets. So you notice there's just we don't have a bunch of different clarinets here. You just have one clarinet A3. So yep, let's check them out. Pretty nice, pretty nice. I think I might have just figured out what's going on with that, where I'm getting that, occasionally getting that instrument hanging over. It's got something to do with the voices and the sustain pedal. So, because I'm using the sustain pedal as I'm playing, and then I let it up just while I was playing there, and then all of a sudden it went and it did a thing. And if you look at up here, 5 voices. I'm not playing anything right now. Let's do a refresh. Yeah, 0 voices. Yeah, I think I didn't mention that button before, but that's if you were if you have a MIDI freeze or note hangs, yeah. So I think that's where that's strategically located. Probably a known issue. All right, so there is your clarinets. Let's check out the bassoon. Yep. Okay. Yep. It's a respectable bassoon. So there's our woodwinds and our strings. So let's move on over to brass and start with the horns. Again, it's a respectable sound, respectable horn sound there. Let's move to the other side here and let's do trumpets. Let's see if we can make an interesting texture here. Yeah, it's kind of neat. All right, let's check out tenor trombones. They were nice enough to give us tenor trombones and bass trombones. So let's do tenor trombones. The low end isn't as splatty as I would like, but again, it's free. I'm just going to keep saying that over and over. And as a learning orchestra, or just learning orchestration, yeah, this is amazing. You know, if God, I would have killed to have something that sounded this good when I was in college. That was a long time ago, and there really wasn't anything that sounded this good at that time. But pretty sweet. Let's say hello to our friend the tuba. It is a tuba. That's kind of nice, but this is just because these are very real samples. You notice how it's like kind of wavers. Which is a common thing to hear on the very low end of the tuba. Like it's a really pure tone in the middle, that mid-range part of it, mid to low range. But when it gets to the bottom end, you know, you're pushing a lot of air through an instrument, so it's really hard to get a pure tone. It gets real splatty and wavery. Kind of a weird break there. So yeah, you can't really do like those splatty movie blab, blab, but you can still play. It's not a polka. All right, so that's the wind instruments. We have gone through all the wind instruments. Let's check out this percussion. So harp first, which is just lovely. It's just lovely. It's lovely. Let's check out the celesta. That is nice, and you can hear again just the detail in the hits is just beautiful. Let's check out timpani and untuned percussion. Hey, not too bad. Not too bad at all. So I just wanted to check and see what does it sound like in terms of, how bad is the repeat? Does it sound like it's mechanical repeated note? It just doesn't, it's not bothering me very much. And I'm fairly sensitive to those things normally. Let's see what we've got in the way of untuned percussion. Side drum. Snare. Another snare. Okay, I think that note's a stick drag across a cymbal. I had to turn it way up to see what it was. Dinner is served. I like a good gong. Got some tambourine action. You know, I've got an illness, and the only thing that's going to cure it is more cowbell. beautiful. Okay, there's our untuned percussion. So, you know, all the greatest hits there that you would expect. Let's check out the tuned percussion and Je suis fini. That'll be it. So, starting off, tubular bells. The marimba's got a real dreamy feel to it. It's just lovely. Glockenspiel is one of my all-time favorite instruments. In terms of tuned percussion, that and Glockenspiel and Celeste are probably my two favorites. So I could play with this for hours, and I probably will. So not too darn shabby, I say. So this has been the BBC Symphony Orchestra Discover Edition from Spitfire Audio. $50. It's pretty amazing. You can really do a lot. I have spent significantly more money on other products that I would say for $50 is easily rivals. Does it have every articulation you're going to need? No, it doesn't. Does it have a lot? You bet. Does it have a starting place for a ton of stuff? Yes, absolutely. Could it be mixed with several other instruments out there and be a supporting instrument? Absolutely. So whether you were lucky enough to get it for free or you have or you purchase it for $50, $50 is money well spent. Just take it from someone who spent a lot of money on libraries over the years. $50 is a small price to pay. So anyways, thanks for exploring this with me. It's been a blast. Thanks for listening to the music I wrote. And I look forward to seeing you again. Cheers.